Sienna God, hello all. Oshisahi, good evening and Wado. Thank you for watching. This is day 4 of reading Many Lives, Many Masters, a timeless classic, the true story of a prominent psychiatrist, his young patient, and the past life therapy that changed both their lives, by Brian L. Weiss, MD. So, long time no see. Back in my bathroom. Haven't been in here in a while. My hubster's doing some stuff downstairs that makes a lot of noise. He's washing dishes. So I figure I'm doing whatever else he's got to do this evening. So he is this in evening. So anyway, and so I figured I'll just let him have the downstairs for this evening while I do this reading for y'all. In quotes, the wife is rather plump, very dowdy looking, and there are 2 daughters. I don't know them, she added. And that was in quotes. Anticipating my next question, whether any had appeared yet in Catherine's current lifetime, I inquired about her own family in the 18th century. In quotes, I don't know, I don't see them. I don't see anybody with me. In quote, I asked if she lives there. In quotes, I lived here, yes, but not in the main house, very small. The house is provided for us. There are chickens. We gather up the eggs. They're brown eggs. My house is very small and white. 1 room. I see a man. I live with him. He has very curly hair and blue eyes, end quote. I asked if they are married. End quotes, not their understanding of marriage, no, end quote. Was she born there? End quotes, no, I was brought to the estate when I was very young. My family was very poor, end quote. Her mate did not seem familiar. I directed her to move ahead in time to the next significant event in that lifetime. End quotes, I see something white with many ribbons on it. Must be a hat, some type of bonnet with feathers and white ribbons, end quote. Who is wearing the hat? Is it? She cut me off, end quotes, the lady of the house, of course, end quote. I felt a bit stupid, end quotes. It's the marriage of one of their daughters. The whole estate joined in the celebration, end quote. I asked if there was anything in the newspaper about the wedding. If there was, I would have had her look at the date. End quotes, no, I don't believe they have newspapers there. I see nothing like that, end quote. Documentation was proving difficult to come by in this lifetime, end quotes. Do you see yourself at the wedding? I asked. She answered quickly in a loud whisper, end quotes. We're not at the wedding. We can only watch the people coming and going. The servants are not allowed, end quote. What are you feeling? Quote unquote, hatred. Why? Did they treat you poorly? And in quotes it says, because we are poor, she answered softly, and we're bonded to them, and we have so little compared to what they have, end quote. Do you ever get to leave the estate, or do you live out your life there? She answered wistfully, end quotes. I live out my life there, end quote. I could feel her sadness. Her life was both difficult and hopeless. I progressed her to the day of her death, end quotes. I see a house. I'm lying on the bed. They're giving me something to drink, something warm. It has a minty odor to it. My chest is very heavy. It's difficult to breathe. I have pain in my chest and my back. It's a bad pain, difficult to talk, end quote. She was breathing rapidly and shallowly in great pain. After a few minutes of agony, her face softened and her body relaxed. Her breathing returned to normal. Still in quotes, I have left my body. Her voice was louder and husky. I see a wonderful light. There are people coming to me. They're coming to help me. Wonderful people. They are not afraid. I feel very light, end quote. There's a long pause. Do you have any thoughts about the lifetime you just left? End quotes. That is for later. For now, I just feel the peace. It's a time of comfort. The party must be comforted. The soul finds peace here. You leave all the bodily pains behind you. Your soul is peaceful and serene. It's a wonderful feeling. Wonderful, like the sun is always shining on you. The light is so brilliant. Everything comes from the light. Energy comes from this light. Our soul immediately goes there. It's almost like a magnetic force that we're attracted to. It's wonderful. It's like a power source. It knows how to heal, end quote. Does it have a color? End quotes. It's many colors. She paused, resting in this light. What are you experiencing? I ventured. End quotes. Nothing, just peacefulness. You're among your friends. They're all there, excuse me. I see many people. Some are familiar, others are not, but we're here waiting, end quote. She continued to wait. As minutes slowly passed, I decided to push the pace. End quotes. I have a question to ask. Of whom? Catherine asked. Somebody, you or the masters? I hedged. I think the understanding of this will help us. The question is this: do we choose the times and the manner of our birth and our death? Can we choose our situation? Can we choose the time of our passing over again? I think understanding that will ease a lot of your fears. Is there anyone there who can answer that question? End quote. The room felt cold. When Catherine spoke again, her voice was deeper and more resonant. It was a voice I had never heard before. It was the voice of a poet. End quote. Yes, we choose when we will come into our physical state and when we will leave. We know when we have accomplished what we were sent down here to accomplish. We know when the time is up, and you will accept your death. For you know that you can get nothing more out of this lifetime. When you have time, when you have had the time to rest and re-energize your soul, you are allowed to choose your re-entry back into the physical state. Those people who hesitate, who are not sure of their return here, they might lose the chance that was given them, a chance to fulfill what they must when they're in physical state, end quote. I knew immediately and completely this was not Catherine speaking. Who is speaking to me? I implored. Who is talking? Catherine answered in a familiar soft whisper, end quote. I don't know. The voice of somebody who controls things, but I don't know who it is. I can only hear his voice and try to tell you what he says, end quote. She always knew this knowledge was not coming from herself, not from the subconscious, nor from the unconscious, not even her subconscious self, or superconscious self. She was somehow listening to, then conveying to me. Okay, so she was somehow listening to, then conveying to me the words or thoughts of someone very special, someone who, quote unquote, controls things. Thus, another master had appeared, different from the one or several from whom the previous wisdom-laden messages had come. This was a new spirit with a characteristic voice and style, poetic and serene. This was a master who spoke about death without any hesitation, yet whose voice and thoughts were steeped with love. The love felt warm and real, yet detached and universal. It felt blissful, yet not smothering or emotional or binding. It relayed a feeling of love detachment or detached loving kindness, and it felt distantly familiar. Catherine's whisper grew louder. In quotes, I have no faith in these people. No faith in which people? I queried. In the masters. That was in quotes. And he says, no faith? No, I have lack of faith. That's why my life has been so difficult. I had no faith in that lifetime, end quote. She was calmly evaluating her 18th century life. I asked her what she had learned in that lifetime. In quotes, I learned about anger and resentment, about harboring your feelings toward people. I also had to learn that I have no control over my life. I want control, but I don't have any. I must have faith in the masters. They will guide me throughout, but I did not have the faith. I felt like I was doomed from the beginning. I never looked at things very pleasantly. We must have faith. We must have faith. And I doubt. I choose to doubt instead of believe, end quote. She paused. What should you do, and I do, to make ourselves better? Are our paths the same? I asked. The answer came from the master who last week had spoken of intuitive powers and of returning from comas. The voice, the style, the tone were all different from both Catherine's and from the masculine poetic master who had just spoken. End quote. Everybody's path is basically the same. We all must learn certain attitudes while we're in physical state. Some of us are quicker to accept them than others. Charity, hope, faith, love, we must all know these things and know them well. It's not just one hope and one faith and one love. So many things feed into each of these. There are so many ways to demonstrate them, and yet we've only tapped into a little bit of each one. People of the religious orders have come closer than any of us because they've taken these vows of chastity and obedience. They've given up so much without asking for anything in return. The rest of us continue to ask for rewards and justifications for our behavior. When there are no rewards that we want, the reward is in doing, but doing without expecting anything, doing unselfishly. I have not learned that, end quote. Catherine added in her soft whisper. For a moment I was confused by the word chastity, quote unquote chastity, but I remembered that the root meant, quote unquote, pure, referring to a much different state from that of just sexual abstinence. End quotes. Not to overindulge, she continued, anything done to excess, in excess, you will understand. You really do understand, end quote. She paused again. I'm trying, I added. Then I decided to focus on Catherine. Perhaps the masters had not left yet, or had not yet left, end quote. What can I do to best help Catherine to overcome her fears and anxieties and to learn her lessons? Is this the best way, or should I change something or follow up in a specific area? How can I help her the best? End quote. The answer came in a deep voice of the poet master. I leaned forward in my chair. End quote. You are doing what is correct, but this is for you, not for her. End quote. Once again, the message was that this was for my benefit more than for Catherine's. For me? Yes, what we say is for you. Not only was he referring to Catherine in the third person, but he said we, quote unquote we. There were indeed several master spirits in attendance. Can I know your names? I asked, immediately wincing at the mundane nature of my question. I need guidance. I have so much to know. The answer was a love poem, a poem about my life and my death. The voice was soft and tender, and I felt the loving detachment of a universal spirit. I listened in awe. End quote. You will be guided in time. You will be guided in time. When you accomplish what you have been sent here to accomplish, then your life will be ended. But not before then. You have much time ahead of you. Much time. End quote. I was simultaneously anxious and relieved. I was glad he was not more specific. Catherine was becoming restless. She spoke in a small whisper. End quote. I'm falling, trying to find my life. Falling. End quote. She sighed, and I did too. The masters were gone. I pondered the miraculous messages, very personalized messages from very spiritual sources. The implications were overwhelming. The light after death and the light after death and the life after death, or chosen when we were born and when we will die. The sure and unerring guidance of the masters, lifetimes measured in lessons learned and tasks fulfilled, not in years. Charity, hope, faith, and love. Doing without expectations of return. This knowledge was for me. But for what purpose? What was I sent here to accomplish? The dramatic messages and events cascading upon me in the office mirrored deep changes in my personal and family life. The transformation gradually crept into my awareness. For example, I was driving with my son to a college baseball game when we became stuck in a huge traffic jam. I've always been annoyed by traffic jams, and now we would miss the first inning or two as well. I was aware of not being annoyed. I wasn't projecting the blame on some incompetent driver. My neck and shoulder muscles were relaxed. I didn't take out my irritation on my son, and we were passing the time talking to each other. I became aware of just wanting to spend a happy afternoon with Jordan, watching a game we both enjoy. The goal of the afternoon was to spend time together. If I had become annoyed and angry, the whole outing would have been ruined. I would look at my children and my wife and wonder if we had been together before. Had we chosen to share the trials and tragedies and joys of this life? Were we ageless? I felt a great love and tenderness toward them. I realized that their flaws and faults are minor. These are not really so important. Love is. I even found myself overlooking my own flaws for the same reasons. I didn't need to try to be perfect or in control all the time. There really was no need to impress anyone. I was very glad that I could share this experience with Carol. We would often talk after dinner and sort out my feelings and reactions to Catherine's sessions. Carol has an analytical mind and is very well grounded. She knew how driven I was to pursue the experience with Catherine in a careful, scientific manner, and she would play the devil's advocate to help me look at this information objectively as the critical evidence mounted that Catherine was indeed revealing great truths. Carol felt and shared my apprehensions and my joys. So before we begin on chapter 7, I thought that was extremely profound, right? Because throughout my life, I've literally given and not expected to receive anything in return. That's not why I do what I do, right? And that's why, I have, I usually give away more than I receive, either in my business or just, personally, whatever it is. And everybody, for the most part, around me is why do you do that? You should make them pay. You should do this. You should go after them for whatever. And those people have literally not gotten to the point where I had gotten, like, I guess earlier in my life. I have really no idea when it started. But like, I just gave, like, I don't know. And I had also been accused of like brown nosing, people pleasing, and stuff with that. Now, I did people please and stuff like that, but that was for like my anxieties and my low self-esteem and my feelings of like wanting to belong and whatnot. But I've always given without expecting anything in return. And I am surprised when people want to give me stuff in return or do for me, you know, and I'm like, ah. But with my anxiety and all that kind of stuff, I never knew how to accept the compliment or accept the gift or whatever it is. I'm like, no, it's okay. But then I learned that you're potentially blocking a blessing, right? Because they want to say thank you, right? They want to show their kindness and reciprocate to you. And when you're shutting them down, then you're cutting off their want to, like, thank you, I guess, if that makes any sense. I have no idea. Anyway. And then also, it took me a long time to learn not to get upset at things that were out of my control, right? I used to think that, why is this always happening to me and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized putting that energy out gives you more of the same thing, right? So quit doing it. And really, there's probably a huge reason in your benefit that that is happening to you right then, but you just can't see it because you're too close. And it took me a long time, like many, many years. I feel like a couple decades at least, if not more. Anyway, so and then when you're harping on that stuff that is out of your control, you're missing all the beauty around you, right? Like this guy would have missed talking to his kid and stuff. And then also teaching his kid not to get upset at the traffic, right? It has nothing to do with them personally. Anyway, chapter 7, and making the most of a situation too. When Catherine arrived for her next appointment 1 week later, I was ready to play the tape of last week's incredible dialogue. After all, she was providing me with celestial poetry in addition to past life recall. I told her that she had related information from after-death experiences, even though she had no memory at all of the in-between or spiritual state. She was reluctant to listen, overwhelmingly improved and happier. She had no need to listen to this material. Besides, it was all somewhat quote-unquote eerie. I prevailed upon her to listen. It was wonderful, beautiful, uplifting, and it came through her. I wanted to share it with her. She listened to her soft whisper on the tape for only a few minutes, and then she made me turn it off. She said that it was just too weird and made her uncomfortable. Silently, I remembered, in quotes, "This is for you, not for her," end quote. I wondered how long these sessions would continue because she was improving every week. Now only a few ripples remained in her once turbulent pond. She was still afraid of enclosed places, and the relationship with Stuart was still literally touch and go. Otherwise, her progress was remarkable. We had not had a traditional psychotherapy session for months. None was necessary. We would chat for a few minutes to catch up on the events of the week, then move quickly to hypnotic regression, whether due to the actual memories of major traumas or daily mini traumas, or to the progress of reliving the experiences. Catherine was virtually cured. Her phobias and panic attacks had just about disappeared. She had no fear of death or dying. She was no longer afraid of losing control. Psychiatrists are now using high doses of tranquilizers and antidepressant medicines to treat people with Catherine's symptoms. In addition to the medicines, the patients are also often in intensive psychotherapy or attending phobia group therapy sessions. Many psychiatrists believe that symptoms such as Catherine's have a biological basis, that there are deficiencies in one or several brain chemicals. As I hypnotized Catherine to a deep trance state, I thought about how remarkable and wonderful it was that in a period of weeks, without the use of medicines, traditional therapy, or group therapy, she was nearly cured. This was not just the suppression of symptoms, nor the gritting of teeth and living through it. A life racked by fears, this was a cure, the absence of symptoms, and she was radiant, serene, and happy beyond my wildest hopes. Her voice was a soft whisper again. In quotes, "I'm in a building, something with a domed ceiling. The ceiling is blue and gold. There are other people with me. They're dressed in old, some type of robe, very old and dirty. Don't go hang, we meet again, love you, mean it."